Petersen.
We all know people in this world who carry baggage. Those folks who say, poor me, it's not my fault, I can't do this or I can't do that. In NAHU, this morning I'm showing you an option. Instead of baggage, how about a treasure chest? Yes, a treasure chest. The only difference between baggage and a treasure chest is in the content. And we get to decide that content. For me, it is driven by a philosophy. In my life, there are no barriers, there are only solutions. And hence, I feel I was born with 3 advantages. Now, bear with me for a moment as I talk about these advantages. Advantage number 1, I was born black in apartheid South Africa, a country which said, based on the color of my skin, where I could live, what hospital I could use, what school I could attend, right down to what job I could hold and how much I could earn. A harsh era, apartheid, was in my country's history. Advantage number 2, I was born in a working class family. My father had been a commercial diver. My father was a man of the sea. But unfortunately, my father became an alcoholic. And through this disease of alcoholism, he could not hold down a job. And he drifted from company to company and eventually became a security guard, a factory laborer. When my father retired, his pension was less than $100 per month. My mother was a school teacher. And you know the contributions school teachers make to society are immense. But the income, that is so minuscule in comparison to those contributions. In our household, yes, we had a roof over our head. Yes, we had some basic transportation, 1 meal a day at least. But we could not take that future for granted because we did not know where we would stand economically. Advantage number 3. You see, I can walk today, but I could not always walk. Because when the big guy upstairs was handing out hip sockets, I was not paying attention. And so in my left hip, I did not have the cup of the ball and socket joint. As a result, the first 5 years of my life was spent in and out of hospital. The last surgery left me in a plaster cast from my ankle to my chest. In this body cast, if I wanted to see a different view, a nurse or a doctor physically had to pick me up and shift me. And I have no idea how my parents paid for those surgeries. But you hear me speak about my 3 advantages. You hear me speak about prejudice, economic hardship, and physical disability. And you are saying to yourself right now, is this guy crazy? Those are not advantages, those are huge disadvantages. Well, in NAHU, each and every one of us in this room has been dealt a hand of cards. We can't change that fact. But how we choose to play that hand of cards is up to us. We could go through life and say, oh, poor me, the world's against us. Poor me, the government is against us. Poor me for whatever reason, and choose to carry baggage. Or instead, we can hold our heads up high and truly believe in life there are no barriers. We will find solutions. We will choose to carry no chips on our shoulders. This is how we begin to turn our disadvantages into advantages. But more important, when we look at our past and we say, yes, we have dealt with some very hard things. And because we have dealt with those hard things, whatever the future will throw at us, we can deal with that too, because we are survivors, we are winners. This is how we find the treasures of our life. I challenge you to go forward and hunt for your experiences as treasures, not as problems or things of the past that hold you back, but as reasons to excel as we go and look towards that future, as you, as brokers, make a difference. And so, I lay in this hospital bed, and one morning a doctor makes his rounds, and he shows up at my bed, and he says to me, son, what are you interested in? And I said, boats. I grew up in the coastal city, Cape Town, South Africa. Indian Ocean on one side, Atlantic on the other. I grew up with the stories of my father and his time at sea. It was natural to be drawn to boats. My community were fishermen. A few days later, that doctor showed up with an entire stack of sailing magazines. I was too young to read the words, but a picture will paint 1,000 words. I saw photographs of beautiful yachts gliding through the ocean waters. And I thought, maybe one day I could be on that boat. I saw tropical blue waters, waters which could be the Caribbean. And I thought perhaps one day I may explore those beautiful tropical waters of maybe the Caribbean. Ladies and gentlemen, when we have hope, we have the most powerful tool within ourselves to overcome anything. And you know, when your clients lose hope, you see people decline. We are in the business of hope, of helping people to go forward and to excel. Not just to survive, but to prosper. And so as I looked at these pictures, my dreams became concreted. But it was not until about age 11 that I read a book that was to change my life forever. Joshua Slocum, Sailing Alone Around the World. When I finished reading this book about a man who had circumnavigated at the last century, the 1800s, he spoke about a place called Cape Horn, the southernmost cape of the universe. I wanted to see Cape Horn. He spoke about his adventures on a yacht. I wanted to be a sailor. And I remember going to my dad and saying, hey, Daddy, please, can you have a boat, please? But on the income my father was earning, was that possible? No. But my mother said, son, stay reading, stay dreaming. The application of knowledge is the power. So I said, Dad, as you can't buy me a boat, will you take me to the local yacht club? Now let me tell you about the local yacht club. Royal Cape Yacht Club. It was rich, it was elitist. The only time someone from my community showed up in this yacht club was to wash dishes in the kitchen or to fix broken gear on their boats. My community did not show up to be equals, but my parents had the courage to let me go to where nobody in our community had gone before. And I went from boat to boat and saying, please, will you take me sailing? No. Please, will you take me sailing? No. Please, Bruce, will you take me sailing? Please, will you? Yes. Look at all the no's I went through. I got on that boat, and I loved it. And guess what? I got seasick. But I read that some of the world's best sailors got seasick. But they overcame it by being involved. You see, we all believe in doing things, in being a part of something. But when we first come to the table, we don't have much. All we bring to the table is passion and enthusiasm. When I joined that team, I had very few skills. But the more I read, I was able to eventually pull some skills together. And each weekend, when I end up on that boat, I would ask questions. How do you do this? How do you do that? Can I be a part? Are you a part of something? What is that something that you are passionate about and committed to and willing to do? And people will always criticize you. That is just unfortunately a part of humanity. On a Monday morning, when I showed up at school, my school friends spoke about how they'd gone drinking or partying. Then they said, Petersen, I guess you went sailing. And they said to me, give up those dreams. You are going to be a drunk like your father. You're going to end up working in a factory like our fathers. Who are you kidding? It was very hard listening to those children, to those colleagues saying these harsh things. But I hung on to my dream, and I got myself something to remind me, what am I working towards? You see, I got myself a red sailing jacket. And I said, one day, I will wear this jacket when I own a yacht. And I hung that jacket where I could see it. And each time somebody criticized the dream of ownership, I knew what I'm working towards. Do you have your red sailing jacket? Do you have your dreams and the commitments to those goals and dreams? Well, I stayed reading. And I read about these giant sailors, people like Harry Mitchell, a man who became my hero. He was my idol. And I thought, wow, wouldn't it be wonderful one day to meet somebody like that? And I knew that somehow, some way, someday, I will own a vessel. And in all this reading that I was doing, in all this gaining of knowledge, I came to hear about a solo around-the-world yacht race. This race had been done previously a long time ago, but this one was going to be the first with stopovers, and Cape Town would be that first stopover. This race was 27,000 miles, the longest race on the planet known to mankind. And when the first competitor arrived in Cape Town, I was around 13, 14. When that first competitor arrived, it was the middle of the night, a school night. I could not go. When the second competitor arrived, it was a South African. But there was no point me showing up because he was a prejudiced South African and would never look and recognize a kid of a different color. So it was not worth showing up. When the third competitor arrived, it was a Saturday afternoon. I'd been on the dock since pre-dawn, waiting. And it was just by chance that I was on that dock as he came alongside. And as he looked up at this crowd that had gathered, he said, "I need a volunteer. I need help." And by the time the word help was out of his mouth, I was landing on his deck. We must be willing to step up to the plate. We are volunteers. You have volunteered your time to do what you want to do in this industry and to be here in New York City. And so we cleaned up the boat, we stowed sails, we coiled lines, and when we were done, I began to ask this individual a bunch of questions. Where did you find the money for the boat? Why the route that you took? Why did you do that? What will happen on the next route? Will you be first? And this individual answered every single one of my questions, and that was significant. His name, Richard Broadhead. You see, the reason it was significant, the reason why I see it as one of those defining moments of my life, this man had been at sea for more than 50 days. This man had not yet stepped ashore and hugged his loved ones. He made sacrifices. He had not even spoken to the world media, but he found the time at that very moment to make me the most important person in front of him and answered every single question. And when I ran out of questions, he said, "Son, if you have any more, you know where I'll be for the next few weeks. Come back, I'll be glad to answer them." And then he went ashore for that first time. That defining moment taught me that I could be anybody I chose to be. I could one day wear the red jacket. I could one day be a sailor, a solo sailor, part of a big event. But I recognized there were some small steps that had to be taken. I needed to do a trans-ocean race. I needed to go and meet my hero, Harry Mitchell, and compete against him. But here I am, a kid in South Africa with no money, with no prospects. How do we go from nothing to something of significance? Well, it comes down to we take baby steps.